Well, welcome to Black History Conversations. I'm Liz Millman from Learning Links International, and I'm joined with some colleagues here. We're making a start on season 8, and we're going to be rolling through. By the time we get to the 31st of March, we'll actually have done 100 sessions. So I just have to say the biggest thank you to everybody who's been involved, especially to Simon Fringo, who manages to post all these sessions onto the YouTube platform. So, and then we've got them on the website too. So welcome to you all. That's really lovely to see you all here. Right, I'm just working my way around here. So again, welcome to season 8 of Black History Conversations. I'm in Australia at the moment, and I respectfully acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which I'm living here, the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, and I pay my respects to the elders, past, present, and future. Usually I just have a slide with a view when I give the acknowledgement to country, which this is called, and meetings in Australia start wherever you are with an acknowledgement to country. If the session is being led by one of the traditional owners of the land, one of the Aboriginal people, then they will do a welcome to country, which is a different and separate short ceremony. I just thought I'd explain, though, that the Kulin Nation is an alliance of 5 Aboriginal nations in South Central Australia, South Central Victoria, Australia. So before British colonisation, before the invasion of the continent of Australia by the British, the tribes spoke 5 related languages. These languages are being revived now. There are still speakers of the languages. But the languages of the Wurundjeri people, who are the people in the area that I live, is called Walrung. So it's fascinating to see how this is progressing towards the statement from the heart, which is going to enshrine a voice for the Aboriginal people in the Australian government. But I can explain more about that again, but I thought I'd give a little bit of information each session. So there's the Kulin world. People who've joined these sessions before will have heard me often say this, and here are the Wurundjeri people, and where this red blob is, that's where I'm based at the moment. So we advertised this session with this rather attractive cutout of Black British History, BBC History magazine from November. And it's really interesting. There's all sorts of bits and pieces that you can look up on there. And I'm very interested to see how other organisations are sharing the stories of Black history. But what we want to do today is just to review the plans for our Black History conversation sessions, because, as I've said, we'll have recognised, we're recognising that we'll have done 100 sessions. This is unbelievable. Black History conversation started in October 2020 during the lockdown time, and also after the killing of George Floyd and the Black Lives Matter campaign. So we're going to go for a new start time at 12:30, which makes it a little bit easier for one or two of us. And then we'll have the welcomes, introductions and updates. So in a moment, I'm going to welcome one or two of the folks who are here with us. Then at 1 o'clock, we'll have a speaker, and then at 1:30, we may have another focus, or it may be that the first speaker's session carries on. So I'm just going to stop sharing that for a moment, and particularly welcome Martin Pinder. Martin, I haven't seen you for ages. How are you?
Yeah, I'm fine, thanks. The weather's not been too good in East London where I'm based, but it's nice to join up with you again. And I'm sorry that you've been suffering from the weather as well. I've seen these awful floods and the kangaroos escaping onto little mounds of earth to avoid the floods. California, where I've got friends, have been suffering as well. So we're all facing it one way or the other.
I think it's really true, isn't it? And then I've heard the weather in the UK has not been too kind. We've now unbelievably got a the heat wave, which is affecting Victoria, where I am. But certainly the flooding has been terrible. So thank you for that, Martin. So Martin, have you been up to Black History Month Black History activities?
Not so much directly, but indirectly, yes. I mean, just to introduce myself very briefly without going into detail, I'm based in East London in Newham, which is probably the most diverse borough in the UK, probably the world, in the sense 80% or more of the people here are not white or Irish British. And over half our young people speak a second language, and about 100 dialects and languages are spoken here. So I moved here because I wanted to retire in a multicultural, multiracial area. And I'm involved with the University of East London, University of Roehampton on home heritage language learning. I'm involved in regeneration in a market that's very multicultural, that was started by the Jews 150 years ago and is now taken over by the Asians. And we're also interested, obviously, in other things like Windrush, because Tilbury, where the Windrush used to dock, is not far from where I'm based. So that's my interest, but I'm more of a community activist that tries to plug in our communities to Black history rather than being a Black history specialist or archivist myself. So I'm more of an enthusiast that likes to link people like you up with people in Newham. And for instance, on the Jamaican front, I've tried to stimulate some of our schools led by Jamaican head teachers to get involved with you. But the teachers are running after their tails, trying to educate their young people as best they can. So they're not always got time at 12:30 on a Friday to tune in.
What's interesting, excuse me interrupting, Martin, what's interesting in Wales is that the Welsh government have created a considerable fund called Taith, which means Welsh for Journey, and that fund is to link Welsh schools with schools around the world. So we're busy, we're trying to work on some Jamaican links.
Okay.
So thanks, Martin, that's lovely.
Thank you.
Okay. I'm just going to take the opportunity to formally welcome Jonathan. You've come along to just discuss with us how your project on the Race Equality Charter, which you're responsible for working on at Durham University, how you're going to move that forward, and we're going to welcome you next week. So that'll be wonderful, Jonathan. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm looking forward to it.
That's lovely. That's great. So we've got Garrick joined us now. How are you, Garrick?
We can't hear him.
I'm very well. Hello, Martin. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you. Good.
How are you doing?
Yeah, fine. Thanks. To yourself.
Yes, yes. So welcome to our Friday Black History conversation. I'm living still in the Northwest. I know you've moved away from Liverpool and you're in London, but
yes,
I'm still in the Northwest. So it's really nice to actually connect with you again. And I'm sure we can share information, over the next few weeks, months, etc. So Liz, Martin and I worked together on project in Liverpool in regeneration for a number of years, and in particular around the French-speaking Africans like the Congolese, etc. And so Martin was one of the lead person in a little area called Kensington of Liverpool during the regeneration. Okay? And he disappeared and run away from Liverpool and went hide in London. So it's nice to connect with you again. Mm-hmm.
And
well, that's lovely. Martin was a very welcome participant in Black History Conversations when we were getting going, weren't you, Martin? And thank you very much indeed for that. And Martin, I think it was you who sent me that lovely book, and I can't for the life of me think what it's called.
It was called The Fortune Men.
That's
A
right.
book,
Yes.
a book
Well,
by the Somali novelist Nadifa Mohammed about a retired Somali sailor who'd settled in Cardiff and was wrongly
yeah.
accused of murder and hung. And the author, who's a lady in her 30s, 40s from Somalia, wrote a novel, The Fortune Men, about his life and his case, because she went through the files and spoke to the family. So it's a very interesting book. And as Liz has connections with Wales, I got the author to sign a copy for her, which I sent to Australia. So that was my good deed a couple of years ago.
That was very kind. I didn't manage to get in touch with her to ask her to come and talk about the book, but that's certainly something that we could do, because we're talking about, you know, who we'd like to invite in the next
Yes.
year and particularly in the next season. So that would be really great. Thank you very much indeed for that, Martin. That was really lovely. So June Elizabeth, are you still in your car?
Yes, I am, but I'm okay. I'm tuned in.
We can see you
Happy New
jumping
Year,
around.
Gary.
Thanks, Jonathan. Thank you.
Yes, I'm in the car, but I'm tuned in. As I briefly mentioned, I am going to coordinate. I'm just setting up a meeting with the Global Ethnic Majority. They're called the GEM, and that's a race equality network at the University of Northampton. I'll send you everything in an email, Liz, and everybody,
Okay.
just for clarity. And Garrick, are you able to send Roland the link for today? He's requesting it.
Yes, I can do that. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
And also the University of Northampton is interested in, you know, hearing more about the Windrush Allies Network and the Black History Conversations. So they want me to work with the Global Ethnic Majority Network at the university to be involved in working collaboratively to put something on for Windrush at 75. Right.
Excellent.
So everything will be coordinated and disseminated. And the Windrush at 75 National, I don't know if anybody went to the meeting. It was on Tuesday. They sent me the invite, but unfortunately I didn't attend. But I've got my partner, my colleague who attended, Herman Irish in North London, and he wrote 5 pages of notes. So I'll be able to talk a bit more about that. So I wrote to them and told them that I would be sending some more information to them about what's happening on our platform here. Yes.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah, because
if you're able to send the notes on, I'd love to read them, June, if you don't mind. Just to get a bit
I will send everything that I've got.
Thank you.
To you, and then anybody on this platform who's interested, if you haven't heard about the National Windrush at 75, you can just send them an email, and even if you're not doing anything, they will keep you up to date with. They're collating what's happening nationally to disseminate so everybody knows what's happening for Windrush at 75. As I was saying previously, Lenny Henry and Patrick Vernon were saying that the original Windrush generation that came here, there's not many of them left. And the ones that are left, that are like in their 80s and 90s, they might not be around to celebrate any more big anniversaries. So this is a Jubilee Diamond Jubilee, 75. So we've got to not just stand on their shoulders, we've got to really honour the ones that are alive and pass the baton down. As I was at a meeting with the UN last night. I don't know if Garrett was there, and he must probably mention it later, for the younger people to get involved. So I'll stop there. Oh, I didn't introduce myself. I'm an international Windrush advocate, advisor, trainer, ambassador. I've been working with the Windrush generation from 1980. I'm a former Home Office Windrush ambassador under Priti Patel. And, you know, at present, I'm sorry, Roland is calling me. So maybe you didn't
Okay.
get your information, Garrett. So I'll just stop here.
Okay, that's in June. Okay,
I've just
let's
sent it. I've just sent it to Roland, so you have the link.
Oh yeah, he stopped ringing me. He's got it then.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I'll just stop there because I've been involved with Black History for over 50 years. I'm a Black History presenter, and I'm just going to be fast tracked to start a MA History course at Northampton University. And once I'm at Northampton University, we'll be connecting up with WAN. You know, we'll be connecting up through the university and the Global Ethnic Majority Network. Okay, I'll just stop there. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine. Roland's just phoned me asking him for the link, so I'll try and send that in a moment. Right, can I just welcome Marcia? Marcia, it's lovely to see you. Only yesterday we were talking. Introduce yourself, will you, Marcia, while I just try and send this link to Roland.
Well, first of all, I do apologise for being late, so apologies. So I'm Marcia Dunkley, and I'm one of the directors and founders of Black Heritage Walks Network, which we're in our nearly 7th year. And basically, we are 3 teachers, stroke history nerds, that realised that the untold, or what we call hidden narrative of history in Birmingham wasn't present. And when we say Black history, we're also talking Irish history as well. And so what we did, we created a series of heritage walks that captures the story of the Black history, the Asian history, and the Irish history. It's not just Black history that's left out of the narrative, it's those other 2 histories as well. So we've now got 10 walks in Birmingham, and we're expanding to other towns, cities nearby. But we also do we've got an education programme and also social prescribing programme to go alongside our heritage walks. So we do lots. That's what we do.
Just amazing. It's interesting to hear that you've actually included Irish history within the whole untold history stories. So
well, we realised we had to, because it's a shared narrative. They went through the same thing that we went through. So it's a shared narrative, yeah.
Yes, it's really a challenging one, isn't it? So that's really good. Thanks ever so much, Marcia. Anyway, so we've all caught up to speed now, have we? Know who's here. Lovely. So I was just saying earlier, we've started off with the PowerPoint that I'd been working on, but this PowerPoint is a bit flaky. So we want to talk about who we might have contacts with who we might invite to come and talk on the sessions. Now, if you've been involved in Black History Conversations for a while, you know that usually it's one week to the next, but it would be quite nice to get a sort of program set up. So next week, Jonathan Bush is going to introduce the whole thing about the Race Equality Charter, which universities are now going for. So that'll be really interesting to hear about what they're doing at Durham University. So on my list here that I've got written down with no particular special order, I'm going to make some of the suggestions that that we can consider. And then if you've got any ideas, and then I've got a PowerPoint with a lot of other ideas on, so probably keep us going for the next 2 years, never mind about 1. Okay, the first person I've got on my list is April Louise Pennant. I don't know if any of you know April Louise. She's based in South Wales, and her interest is in the Pennant family, as she has the surname Pennant. So if it's okay with everyone, I thought I might invite her, and she can tell us about the research that she's doing. So I thought that would move ahead. Okay, so that's a good one. So Clive Harris worked in Birmingham in 2007 on the Three Continents project, which involved radio recordings and also the production of a very posh book that nobody could afford to buy at the time. I don't know if you've got one, Marcia. I can see you're smiling there. Anyway, this book is now available freely online, which is absolutely wonderful, but it's still an enormous great book, so you have to read your way through it. So I wondered, Marcia, do you know Clive Harris?
I do, yes. Yes.
Yes, would you like to invite him
I will. Okay. Yes.
to come along and to invite, right? I'm writing my notes here. So that would be really lovely, because that would look at the story of Birmingham, and in one of our projects that we're hoping to do in looking at local history, then it would be really good to get his ideas and thoughts on what we're doing there. I'm just going to stop your video, June, because it just gets too exciting watching what you're up to. Right. I'm also interested. There was an anniversary of Walter Rodney's book, How Europe Underdeveloped Africa, and I thought it might be really useful at some stage that we could have a look and see how different people have written and reviewed that. So I've seen papers from a lady called Magdalene Royal and a lady called Nadia Umin, so I might have a look at that. There's also a very interesting, and we'll come to it on the PowerPoint, I think, or maybe it's on my Word document. I've had problems with my setup here, which hasn't helped. So I'll find that for you in a moment. Let me just have a look through. No, that's no good. Right, I'm just trying to find the right PowerPoint. And we'll see how that works out. Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see if we can find this. It's a history book written about Africa, and the guy who's presented it has said that he did a review on it and he would join us, so that would be an interesting one. Also, I've had a really interesting book sent to me recently, written by Ankara Thomas, and it's called Woven, and it's a story of two young girls, one in Wales, one in Jamaica, and their very different lives. One young girl was brought up weaving the cloth that was used to send to Africa and the Caribbean to clothe enslaved workers. And the other girl is a girl who would have been trying to keep her clothes together made out of this woolen cloth. So a fascinating story. So I thought I might invite Ankarad. And with the new way we're going to do things, I thought if we can, we have a first speaker, then we might have a second speaker, and that might be somebody to talk about a book they've written. So I thought I might invite Ankarad there. So I'm doing reasonably well at the moment, then down my list of things. So have you got any ideas, anybody, of people that you'd like to invite to speak on the session?
Yes, I would like to invite Victor Richards.
Oh, good,
from Leicester.
All right, are you there again? Do you want to
No, don't put my picture on. I'm driving, but I'm
Oh,
safe.
right. Okay,
Yeah,
yeah,
I'm
that's
safe.
fine. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll let you know when you can put the picture on. And
Okay.
yes, I'd like to invite Victor Richards, and somewhere along the line, maybe down in October time, if life spare it, I'd like to present Sharing the Past. That was the book I was going to post to you in Australia, but you said not to bother because it was so expensive to twice
Yes,
the price
yeah.
of the book to post. And that's the history, Black history, Asian history of Northamptonshire, and the creation
Yeah,
of
that's really
Northampton
interesting.
Black History Association, and all the
Yeah,
work
that would be
that it's done, and all the like Northamptonshire Black History Association was really the one of the pilots that a lot of associations came to us for our template, especially when we disseminated information for education in the schools. An example was Walter Tull, when we put Walter Tull packs for each key stage into every school in Northampton to make Walter be highlighted. And he was special in the sense that he was biracial. His dad was Barbadian and his mum was from Kent, English from Kent. And he ended up playing for Tottenham, and then he played for Northampton. And he was Northampton's first man of colour to play football. And then obviously you might know the story, he joined the forces in the World War One. We're still trying posthumously to get his medal, because he was awarded a medal, but because of the red tape, Black people, if you weren't full English blood, you were not allowed to be an officer, even though he was an officer, and he died at the same. So he's a very interesting person, but he's just one amongst many that we highlighted. So
Okay,
maybe
absolutely.
later down in October time, Black History,
Yeah.
I would like to present that book.
Yeah.
So
So
yeah,
will
and I
you
was the editor
Victor
of it.
Richards, please, June Elizabeth?
Pardon? Yes, I'd
Get in
like
touch with
Victor
Victor
Richards.
Richards and ask him what he'd like to do a presentation on, because his show that he's taken around the country, Streets of Gold, is
Yeah,
what it's called, is fantastic,
Yeah.
isn't it? That
Yes.
would be really, really, really good. Thank you very much indeed for
yeah.
that.
And
And
just
then,
before you can put my picture on now, but just before I finish, are we still going to be doing, because I've been promoting it at the university, are we still going to be doing the 4 weeks lead up conference to
we are, yeah.
the
That's
Windrush
in,
at 75?
yeah, that's in season 8, sorry, 9. So
Lovely.
after
Okay.
Easter, we're doing 4 weeks, which will be the lead up to the 70th anniversary. Last year we did more or less a whole season on the different aspects of the Windrush story, and it was fascinating. We started off in Jamaica, and then we on the date there. So it'll be really interesting to see. But we're not actually going to do anything on the Windrush anniversary because there's so many other things going on. So we thought we'd do it in the 4-week lead up. So thank you very much indeed for that reminder. That's brilliant.
Yeah. So when we can confirm it, then I can send that off, or I'll give you the details to send it to Windrush at 75, because everybody's doing things at different stages, because everybody can't do something on the day because something's happening everywhere on the day. So we will take that away and come back maybe as soon as we can, because we need to set that up, because if we're going to invite speakers, we need to give them enough notice.
Yeah, we do.
Okay.
Okay, that's really lovely. Thank you very much indeed, June Elizabeth. That's great. Garrick, I don't know if you've got any ideas of anybody particular. You were talking about this somebody, Irish professor or professor of Irish history.
Yeah, I've got a few suggestions that firstly, have you had Robin Walker at all?
No, no,
right.
but I know
So,
Robin Walker.
so Robin Walker is a colleague of mine, and has written a number of books around African history, etc. So that's one suggestion.
Excellent.
The other one is Dr. Tony Talbot.
We have had Tony speak, but we're happy to have him to come again.
Right. Well, there's a number of books, but one particular book about James Watson, the whole story about James Watson, a Jamaican. We always associate football with Arthur Tolu, etc. But even before that, there's a book dedicated to a Jamaican superstar football. It's available to purchase, so he could talk about that. But also, he's got other publication around rum resistance and rivalry. You know, that's a great publication, and you can imagine, you know, it just tied into the whole slavery culture and, you know, economics, etc. So there's a whole range of books that he could highlight. So and Tony is a professor in Ghana, so he's got the Ghana connection.
That would be really, really great. So if you could ask him, that would be marvelous. And
yes.
Marcia, you can come in a moment. Just to say that I used to know Tony very well back in the day.
Yeah, he's from Birmingham.
I remember him writing Rum Resistance and Rivalry, and I have a copy somewhere back in my collection back home. But he came to speak about, I asked him to speak about the children's book he did about some of the first Black people who lived in the UK. He did some of the earliest research that I'd come across.
That's right.
And he was excellent. Thanks very much, Garrick. I'm just going to ask Marcia to come in. She's got a question.
No, it was just to ask the title of that book. I've got it now, Rum Resistance and Rivalry.
That's it, yeah.
Resistance and Rivalry. It's in my collection. You'll be able to read it.
Oh, okay.
Right, and Garrick, anybody else then? That's
yes.
wonderful.
The other person that I would suggest is Dr. Ray Costello from Liverpool, and Ray has written a number of books, not just on Liverpool Black history on the timeline of the population, but also the connection that was mentioned before about Irish history. And as you know, Liverpool as a city, you know, Irish history and Black history is very interconnected. So Ray would be able to you know, he actually written about Black sailors, written you know, a range of books, but very much in the northwest of England, Manchester, Liverpool, Preston, etc., that area. So that's the third suggestion.
All right. Okay, then. Anybody else?
Well, I could give you a load more, but
hang on a minute. Oh, Martin's got something that he's showing us. What's this, Martin?
That's the book for Ray Costello. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Black Liverpool. That's lovely.
Yeah.
Well, you also mentioned another contact that you've got that I'd be really interested.
Yes, Dr. Benjamin. Yes.
And that's Dr. Benjamin. So apparently, at the moment, he's he's at the School of History, Languages and Cultures as a visiting professor.
Correct.
I'm not sure if he's still there.
Yeah.
But anyway, I would really, really appreciate you asking him, please, to come and join us.
Yes,
That would be really
we've made an introduction, so that's no problem. All we need is dates.
Right. Well, I'll show you in a minute what I'm doing about that then, so you can see where where we're going to be booking people in. It's going
Yeah.
to be on the website. So this is our kind of admin website that we run,
Yes.
as you know. Right, so I'm just making a note of that. So that's wonderful. Thanks very much indeed.
Have you had, Liz, Linford Sweeney from Manchester, historian?
No.
Right. So that's another individual I can suggest. I was at the last Kwanzaa celebration on the 1st of
Oh yeah.
January, and he
Yeah.
was present. He gave a talk in Manchester, which is one of the original West Indian community center that is threatened with closure. Car Road, and the building has got connection with Pan-African movement.
Yeah. Right. Well, maybe, we'll see. He might be somebody who can speak either this season, or maybe he would speak after Easter.
Yeah, so he does very similar to what Marcia does in Birmingham, organized the Black History Walk. He delivered talks in the library around Manchester and in the university in Manchester.
That's brilliant, because it would fit in with our stories of Windrush, really, of what the pioneers did, which has got Douglas Rowland's managing to join us in a minute. So that's really brilliant. Right. So I'm
excuse me, Garrick, what was that gentleman's name, please?
Which one?
The one that you just spoke about, that the Manchester
Linford Sweeney.
Thank you.
Linford Sweeney. Just look him up. Google him. He'll come up. Mm-hmm.
Right, that's excellent. Okay, I'm just going to have a quick look at my PowerPoint again and see. Oh no, I've got something on my Word document. Let me just go back up to the top of that. Now this is not necessarily talks, but this is about information that I've been finding that I just wanted to share, see how we can take best advantage of it. Now this, as I say, Guide to Black British History. Over here, sometimes you can get English magazines and things, and I can get the BBC History magazine, so I try and have a look at it, but I missed the last October one. But they've often got the latest information about what's going on with Black history. And so there's an interesting article there, which is more or less a sort of starter article for people who want to have a look at enslavement and that history. So she's written quite positively about that, and I thought that was really interesting. Then in something called the Journal of Latin American and Caribbean Anthropology, there's something about languages, which is really interesting, and I thought we might do a session about languages. In fact, we might be an idea to invite back the guy from University of the West Indies. His surname's Farquharson, Dr. Farquharson. He spoke to us in one of the earlier sessions, but I think it's a good idea, because then you can keep on and find out what to do. At one stage, Natalie Fagan-Brown and myself, we did a lot of work with City College Birmingham on Caribbean languages, and with NIACE, the national entity. And also we could invite John McInnough, who's written a lot of his songs are written in Jamaican, and he was on the Jamaican language course. And also Makapi Selassie was on that course, which accredited up to sort of GCSE kind of A level. So that might be a nice focus again. This was, I was telling you about the, you look something up and you end up with somewhere in America. Well, that was really interesting, but it was very interesting to hear from our colleague Jonathan, to hear that actually Martin Luther King had spoken at Newcastle live, so it wasn't so outrageously unusual. Then another bit of information for you all to tell you that we've been looking for some years now to get an example of the actual cloth that was woven in Wales or in Derbyshire or in the Lake District Kendal cloth. And we have actually found an example, and it sounds small, but I tell you, this is like the Holy Grail. We've been searching and searching for an actual piece of the fabric so that we can really understand just the sort of weight and what it was about and how it was spun. So a colleague called Jo, who organises she's really interested in fabric. She's actually going to go to Derbyshire. She's making an appointment to see this cloth. So when she's seen the cloth, we will get her to come and tell us about it. So this was, yeah, really interesting. So this was an example of the cloth that was sent in 1783. So isn't that just amazing? Okay, so a few more bits from me there. Hello, Roland, how are you? You okay, Roland? Can't just hear you at the moment.
While you're waiting for Roland, I was thinking maybe it'd be nice to invite.
Can you hear me?
Oh yes, Roland, I can. Okay, Roland. Can't hear you now, Roland.
Was it in the wrong?
I don't know. There's something
link.
odd
Yeah.
about the connectivity.
Okay, no worries.
What were you going to say? Try speaking.
It'd be nice to invite a speaker from the University of North Wales, you know, one of those universities. You remember we had presentations from the students from one of the universities, and I think one of them done from wool to sugar.
Sheep to sugar, yes. We've run a project on looking at the production of cloth in Wales, cloth called Welsh Plains, and that was a really good session because we had Charlotte from the University of South Wales, but the expert on the woolen cloth is called Chris Evans, and he's from a university in South Wales. Unusually, the universities in North Wales haven't taken no interest whatsoever in this. So if we ask Chris, because he's going to be publishing a book on it, so then that would be,
yes, lovely.
To invite.
Yeah, lovely.
All right, thank you. That's a really good suggestion. Thanks. Roland, can you link with us now? Can't hear anything. Okay, right. Well, I'm going to go.
I'm hearing you okay.
Good.
Yeah,
Have you
I'm hearing.
Is there anyone that you
okay.
would like to suggest that could speak on one of the Black History conversation sessions?
I will have, but not at this point in time. I have a few people in mind, but I'm not going to
Right,
suggest
well, if
anyone.
you've got a few people, then please make sure we know. You can either, if you think today, put it in the chat, but if not, then it will be good. Right, I just wanted to go on now, if it's okay with all of you, to look at the project that I've been working on, and I was discussing this with Marcia yesterday, and it would be great to just have some conversation about this now. It's about local history. Now, ideally, it would be brilliant to find a big university or a big organization that we could store local history records on a part of their website. We're going to create our own website, but the problem with websites is that they last for so long, and then if you don't keep up the payments, then the whole website gets lost. So it would be great to be able to think of some archive there. Simon, I don't know if you're back. I know you had to pop out for a bit. Are you there? No.
Yes,
So
I'm here. Yep.
Yeah. So Simon, I was thinking we need to maybe speak to the University College London, but also speak to some of the other entities that are interested in Black history, like the Black History Archives, and see how we can put our the stories that we're finding about the Black history research in local areas into the collection. So I'm interested in that. Garrick, you wanted to come in.
I was just thinking while you were talking about share site for storage.
Yeah.
Two things came to mind. Maybe a university in the north, or the National Archive itself. I've had various involvement with National Archive, particularly around Caribbean history, etc. So that might be the most obvious one, very much central and international for consideration.
Garrick, that's a brilliant idea.
Yeah, I agree with Garrick as well. Sorry to interrupt. I was going to mention Northampton University because they, many years ago, maybe about 12 years ago, they sponsored the oral history archive, and we've got a Black history archive in Northampton. And the university, they also sponsored the Sharing the Past book with all the involvements of Black and Asian local people. I was talking about Sharing the Past book. So
well, certainly that would be an idea to talk to them. They've got so much experience.
Yeah, they were the leaders.
Get a group together on this, because I think it's a bigger project. Marcia, I don't know if you want to come in on it.
Yes, so what would I think is if we used as many universities as possible as a joint project, but definitely Birmingham City University. You've got the head there, which is Dr. Kehinde Andrews. You've also got Dr. Martin Glynn, and also another lady called Marissa Parker, who Birmingham City University did a term of inviting different professors and speakers of how we can decolonialize history. So they naturally have, and Dr. Kehinde Andrews, as you know, is the first professor for the Black Studies degree, which is the only degree like this, from my understanding, in Europe. So there's a big catchment there that would grab this wonderfully. And I was talking to Dr. Kehinde Andrews the other day, and what he wants as part of the Black Studies degree are his students to take part, or to be the go-to, if it were, to help them with their thesis for their degree, for anything to do with capturing Black history and storing it and creating from it. So
sounds brilliant. So could you invite Dr. Kehinde Andrews, please, to tell us about the degree, but also, and I think the title that I'd suggest we give to the project is Engaging Communities in Local Black History Research, because that's what I think would be a useful thing to do. And certainly over the last years and months, we've looked at local Black history stories, and this is what I was going to show you. So I'll just quickly show you on this Word document that I've got. So I'm not expecting you to read all the words, but Scott's first page gives all the background to it, and anybody who wants a copy could be can have a copy of this. Right, so the group that really inspired me was the Bewdley anti-racism group, because if you couldn't think of a more traditional English by the river community, but they've got this anti-racism group and they've done a really brilliant walk, which they've illustrated and we showed on different occasions, because they found out about all the local links with Black history. So this is a sort of a working document that somebody who was interested in looking at the local Black history in a particular area, like Martin, if you were looking in East London, you could find out about early Black presence. You could find out about whether there was plantation or slave ownership by local families, landowners, and particularly I would think in East London there would have been some families that would have had homes there, but then they probably had a home somewhere else a bit posher. Because, for example, in Wales, plantation owning families like the Pennants had their house in Wales, but they also had a house in London and they also had houses elsewhere. So that would be something that can be accessed, the information can be accessed through the UCL website. That give you a good idea of the links there. And I'm interested in looking at the history, for example, of Worcestershire. And there's a family, I was telling Marcia yesterday, there's a family called the Littletons who live in Hagley Park. In Kingston, there is a Hagley Park Road. And one of the Governor Generals of Jamaica was a Littleton. So very direct links, but none of the local historical societies have ever seemed to have picked that up. So it'd be really interesting to explore that. Another Black history thread could be whether there are any links with pirates or slave ship captains. Now, that might not be relevant to some communities, but it could be very relevant to others around the coast in Somerset and South Wales and North Wales even. In Wales, we've found that many of the slave ship captains who probably worked out of Liverpool were Welsh, because they had a very good way of managing their crew. Apparently they used to sing hymns a lot. So that's a fascinating bit of information. So, you know, things like that could link. Now, I think in my list here, I think I've forgotten to say sports people. That's another one to add on the list. Right. So commodities, recipients of commodities from the plantations of the trade from South Asia.
Can I,
and everything. Yeah,
I
Roland?
just come
Okay, Roland. The connectivity is not working, Roland.
I'm gonna dial in. I'm gonna call in from my mobile.
Okay, that's lovely. Thank you.
One. I'll call you. I'm gonna dial in from my mobile.
Okay, thanks. So we talked about commodities, both provision of commodities and receipt of commodities. Also talking about, Marcia, do you want to come in on that?
Yes, so what about civil rights activists in an area?
True, that's another one, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Thank you.
And the other one I was thinking, but I don't know if it's a combination of 3 and 4, is industrial links to the slave trade. But when I say industry, I'm looking at the actual companies that, for example, Bourneville, all these corporate businesses, or the Barclays. I'm thinking
banks, yeah, banks.
Yeah. So I'm thinking of the whole thing of corporate, British. Hang on, let me just turn down this phone 1 second. Sorry.
Hate and lie, the sugar people.
Yeah, yeah. And that sort of whole thing of industrial stroke company links. This is really brilliant. Excellent. Local people with roles in the colonies or plantations. Interesting. Missionaries, farm services dispatched to the colonies. So a number of, for example, the armed forces in South Africa were from different parts of Britain, and they're named in the, I don't know stories well enough. That's another one. Any links with World War I or World War II service, which has been very much an overlooked area of the involvement of Black and Asian people in the services. From the point of view of Australia here, there were a lot of Aboriginal people who also fought in both World Wars and didn't get any recognition for that. I'm just going to stop sharing for a moment because I've got Garrick next and then Marcia.
On your list, Liz, I was just looking down of the, sugar spiced tea. Did I miss cotton? Have you got cotton on your?
Don't think I had. Let me put it back on again and then I can remember.
Cotton is a very, important industry, in the same as sugar.
Quite right.
Not just, cotton in Manchester, the whole of the north. So I think cotton is important to us to have a look at.
Are there any other obvious commodities that came in large quantities? Sugar, tea, spice, cotton, chocolate.
Cocoa.
Yeah, just above the iron and copper is the Jamaican bauxite.
Yeah.
That aluminium was really, Jamaica was one of the main supply of aluminium for Britain.
Yeah. Bauxite used to come into Holyhead on Anglesey.
That's right, yes. And of course, in just recent years, the Chinese are trying to start digging again for bauxite. But just to pick up on something that was it Marcia mentioned about the sugar and Tatum Lye. Well, of course, I live just next to the refinery of the sugar plantation that comes in, on the ships and being refined just here. Of course, there was no refinery in the Caribbean. So all of the raw material, the liquid, had to come to Liverpool to be processed and then, go back out in various colonies. So, I live on the doorstep of the sugar refinery site.
Gosh.
So yes.
That's what I mean about local. It's so local, people living next door to places that have got a history which is part of Black history. Fascinating.
Yeah, so sorry about that. I had to just take that phone call. Yeah. So did I say, or I don't know if I have, about the specific companies, businesses within an area that have been, so for example, what's specific to Birmingham is Bird's Custard, Cadbury's. It's those.
Why was Bird's Custard linked? What's the link?
With the sugar. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. And those other businesses specific to an area. For example, because I'm again doing some more nerdy research, I'm looking at, sorry, June, I'm looking at the whole thing of Northampton. And in terms of businesses, I'm looking at the whole fact of Dr. Martens, which is their flagship factory is in Northampton. And you think, well, what's Dr. Martens got to do with, but it's the whole thing of the National Front wearing those boots specifically. That's their sort of symbol and what they stand for. The whole thing of racism, etc. But Dr. Martens have made a very, very viable business with the fact that Dr. Martens is associated with this group. Do you know what I mean? It's that sort of thing.
Gosh,
yes, Marcia. That's why Northampton, they're the capital. They were the shoe capital of the UK, especially in the war and everything. And that's why our football team's nickname is called the Cobblers.
Yes, yes, that's right.
And
Yeah.
what I'll do when I go home, right? In fact, I might get a sponsor to post you that book. But what I'll do, right? I'll photocopy the contents, yes, and then I'll send it to everybody on the platform.
That would be really helpful. That would be really
But
lovely.
what you're doing here is like a replica of what we did, 2008.
This isn't unique. It's just
Yes,
that
but it's very good. It's
the
very
things
good.
that I've pulled together over. We've
Yes,
shared it on one of the conversations about
Yes.
last April, and we've been
Yes.
adding things to it ever since. And thank you very
Yes.
much indeed. We've got some great additions again
Yes.
now.
so we might be able
Um,
to put some more additions onto it next
Yeah.
week. We can always
Yeah.
add on to it.
Yes, yes. And then what I'd like to do then is to try it out with a few areas. Marcia and I have talked about the Black Country, the Walsall, Wolverhampton, Sandwell, Dudley areas, where there hasn't been, to my knowledge, that much focus on the different aspects of Black history. There has been more recently, but not when I used to be living there. And also Anglesey and Gwynedd, because in those areas we tend to focus always on the same old story about the Pennants and the plantations, but there's plenty of other links there as well. Okay, so we've got the Windrush generation as well, and people coming from other Commonwealth countries, and then the sort of links that people might find going to museums and archives, the stolen goods, both on display and hidden, and then also to get people to check if the name of the town or the village is used in other parts of the world. And that's really quite interesting. There's a Cardiff in the US, because coal miners from Cardiff used to, South Wales, went out there. And there's so many other names, and partly because I search the internet from here, I get very different results from if I was doing it in the UK.
Yes.
So often I get, somewhere like Durham, and I've got Worcester. Worcester's got a really good Black history. Worcester in the US, that is. And then the latest one that Marcia and I added yesterday was street names and pub names, because you often find there might be links there. Now, not every area will have all these things, but this gives people an idea of what they might be looking for on the sort of breadth of it all. And then I've listed a whole lot of useful contacts like libraries and archives and church records and councils and da-da-da-da-da. So we'll continue going through this and trying it out. So if anybody wants to try out, even if it isn't, because you can do most of this research online, even if it isn't, well, obviously it's better if you can be a place that that would be really useful. So we'll see.
Liz, can you go back to the start at number 1, 2, 3? I just wanted to have a quick look. Okay, the first one. Okay,
we had
Black
early
Present,
Black Present,
plantation
links,
right,
and the
okay,
basic
commodities. I notice you've got South Asia down. I'm just looking to see palm oil, and the link to Chemical Lever Brothers is important. And that's again on my doorstep here.
Absolutely.
Port Sunlight.
Yeah. The other thing, Garrett, because where you are, I'll maybe talk to you again about this, but we struggled with finding anybody who's ever done any research into the links between North Wales and Liverpool's development as a slave trade port and the input. Somebody in Flintshire's done some stuff recently. They did quite a good thing, but nobody in Liverpool seems that I've spoken to has acknowledged the importance
Well,
of the hinterland of North Wales.
maybe Dr. Benjamin might be able to have any contact to
yeah.
feed in.
Because I think it's a missing project, and we found with the wool project that this was missing. Are you okay then? Have you seen as much of this as you want to?
Yeah,
Gary?
that's fine. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I'll send you a copy if you like, and you can write
Yeah.
all over and add to it. Okay, would you like a copy?
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, I'd like a copy,
Mm.
Liz. And I tell you, a good place is Brighton. I know I don't live there, but that's a good place. That's got a lot of Black history connection, you
Mhm.
know. I think Haile Selassie went there, stayed there. A few people, you know, well-known Black people have been there. I think somewhere down that way, they've even got a Black, you know, the Black servicemen, they were buried on the beach. They've got an area there. I was reading it the other day. Very interesting.
Well, in the First World War, the Punjabi Sikhs had a hospital in Brighton.
That's it, yeah.
There's other connections there. There's a monument on the cliffs above Brighton to the Indian soldiers that were there.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, lovely.
Have you noticed the architecture of Brighton in terms of the dome and the design and how that building came about?
Yes, the pavilion.
Yes.
And it was from the Indian, I think
That's
that's
right.
where the first
The
massage
hospital was.
took place. Yeah. What was his name? Mahome. He used to service the royal people as well, if that makes sense.
Be very interesting that. So
Yeah.
I there's so much in all the different areas. It's just fantastic, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I love it. I love it.
Les, if I could just add something, I'm
Yeah.
happy to support people on London. I'm not a historian myself, nor do I want to spend all the time doing the research, but I can facilitate or liaise. So if people like Garrick or Elizabeth, anybody wants to come down to London, I'm happy to partner them and visit
thank you.
UCL. And, Tilbury is an example. Tate and Lyle have one of their main plants also here in Newham.
Yeah.
So I can help quite a bit. So people should be free to get in touch with me. I've got links with about 6 universities in London: UEL, University of East London, Goldsmiths in South London, UCL, SOAS, which nobody's mentioned, which, the School for Oriental and African Studies.
Yes. Yeah.
Northampton, I have links with through a graduate that Garrick knows, a girl called Laurence Mbombo.
Yes.
One of the Congolese who operated.
She used to be in Liverpool. She's now moved away.
She
Yes.
now lives in Northampton.
That's right.
And she got a degree there, and she's doing social work near there in Hertfordshire. And there are other people as well. London Museum, I've got a meeting next Friday at, and they're kind of pushing the boat out a bit. And there's a London Museum that's changing its location. So for any London connections, museums, that type of thing, I'm happy to help and come along to local meetings or facilitate.
Excellent.
Martin,
That's
thank you
lovely.
so much. That would be really lovely, Martin. And particularly, when you're talking to people, say there's this group that does Black History Conversations, ask them if they'd like to come and join us. That people don't have to come for the whole hour and a half. They can just come and make their contribution, and that's great.
So, I mean, if you have a kind of one A4 page or something that introduces yourself and, very briefly and contact details, send it to me, and I'm happy to use that because I haven't attended so many of your sessions that I can just, search your website quickly and do some. But if
We've got a website.
Sorry?
Yeah, we've got a website. I was just going to try and show it to you, but my computer's playing up at the moment.
Yeah, well, but in my case, I don't live on websites. That's my problem. I'm a local activist, and I shake hands with people and have a pint in the pub. And so I just need a simple half-page introduction.
Okay, I can do that for you.
And then I can come along to any meeting to back people up, you know, have a half a
Yes,
pint with Garrick in a pub near Euston or whatever. And we can go off and do our you know, best somewhere.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that sounds really good to me.
Excuse me,
Okay.
Gary.
Yeah.
Would you invite him to the event on Tuesday?
Wednesday. Yes. I've
Wednesday,
got that in
yeah.
mind. Yeah. If
Can
we
we
stay on the call, we're going to get onto that towards the end of the
Yeah.
session. Yeah.
Yeah.
Can we
I
just
just
speak
wanted to
about that
say,
next then,
Martin,
and then we'll wrap up?
yeah, I was just going to say to Martin, I always wanted to go to Tilbury, and I would like to visit again one day, so I would link up with you. But when I went last year for Windrush 22, I went on a cruise after the unveiling of the monument. I was there, and then I went on a cruise to Tilbury, and going over that bridge and seeing the photographs on the pictures in the glass of the bridge, you know, the museum that they've made, it moved me. It made me kind of, took me back to where, like I was on that ship. And then we had the young people from the schools playing the, what's that, steel band to welcome us as we came in. So it was just very, I want to go back. So maybe one day I might link up with you.
Yeah, and I can introduce you to this an organization called Metal. I don't know if any of you heard of it. It was started by the ex-director of the London South Bank. I just forget her name for a moment. She came from Liverpool originally, and they have a branch in Southend that organises an estuary festival that includes Tilbury every 2 years. So there are local institutions in Essex and near where I live, or in London, that I can introduce you to as well.
Brilliant. That's so nice. Thank you very much indeed, Marcia. I know you need to go now, but that's great. Okay, we're going to wrap it all up in a minute, and then we can stay on and chat a little bit more. But what I wanted to make sure that you all knew was about the campaign on, oops, got the wrong thing up here. The campaign for the Windrush compensation and everything else. It's in the chat here. So I don't know if you might be able to join this, Martin. This is the Justice for Windrush Generations hybrid rally at the House of Commons. What date's it on?
Wednesday the 18th.
Wednesday the 18th from 5:30 till 8. So can you copy this, or shall I copy it and send it to you, Martin?
If you copy it and send it, I kind of struggle with the chat. I don't know how to send chats. And
That's
No.
okay. What I will do, Liz, if you just send me Martin's email contact, I will send Martin a personal invitation.
All right, Martin.
okay, so I tried to put my email address on chat, but I didn't know how to send it, and it disappeared. It's my name with a 7 on the end.
Okay, yeah.
Lowercase, no dots or dashes, @hotmail.com.
Right, yeah.
Okay,
I may
so
have it in my contact, so it may well be there, yeah.
Garrick, is your email end with @gmail.com or @hotmail.com?
No, use a Gmail. All the Windrush stuff goes to the Gmail account, yeah.
Okay then.
Yeah.
So I'm linking you in on this,
Yes.
Garrick, so you'll
Yes.
see Martin's address as well. All right
Yes,
then.
that'd be fine, thank you.
So I'm just sending that off to you now this minute. So that looks okay, I think. I might make it a bit bigger. And then you've got that, Martin. That'll be lovely. Martin, it's been really lovely to see you again. Thank you
nice to
very
be
much
back,
for coming and joining us. Absolutely excellent. And thank you to everybody else who's joined us this session. It's been really good. June Elizabeth, you've given us so many ideas. Garrett, you gave us a whole list of stuff too. Thank you very much indeed for thinking that through. And Roland and Martin, thank you so much too. And thank you, Simon, for sorting all this out. So I'm going to say thanks very much. And can you switch the recording off now, Simon? And then if there's anything else that Garrick and June Elizabeth and Roland want to catch up on, to do with Windrush, then we can look at that afterwards. Okay, thanks very much, everybody.